This is James Lupton, delighted to be joined with Buddy McGIRT once again. Buddy, how are you, sir?
Good, and yourself?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Very good indeed. You're here in Liverpool, camp with Callum Smith. Obviously, a huge fight, Beterbiev. It was postponed originally, so you've had to restart camp again, really, for Callum. How's that been so far in this camp?
I think, I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. Unfortunately, the fight got, Beterbiev had a physical problem, I guess, with his teeth. And it worked. I think it worked out better for us because it just gave me more time to, me and Callum, to put our puzzle together and to make the fight successful. So, I'm glad now we're here. Camp is going good, thank God. One day at a time, so I have no complaints. Just the cold weather here in Liverpool.
It is very cold at the moment. How are you acclimatising to it?
Listen, I grew up in New York, so, but I've been living in Florida for the last 20 years. So when I'm faced with cold weather, I get flashbacks, but I'm coping with it.
You mentioned there, obviously, it gives you a bit more time with Callum to put all the puzzle pieces together and get your game plan a bit more secure, potentially, than before. Is it a positive? Do you guys look at it like that, or do you see it as a bit of a setback, having to put him for another camp again?
I think you got to take a negative and turn it to a bigger positive. You know what I mean? And not dwell on what happened in the back and worry about what's in front of us and right in front of us. And I personally, I'm glad because I took a different approach as far as camp this time. This way when we get halfway there, we're halfway there mentally and physically, but skill-wise, we're 3/4 of the way there. Make sense?
Absolutely. Just people look at Beterbiev and see him as this monster, this unbeatable man. Talk to me about how he is beatable without giving away the game plan too much.
Well, I've very rarely seen him fight. I believe that I see that he could punch. Everybody knows that, and he's strong, and he really can outmuscle these guys, and he's been very successful at it. And but the key is to how can I put it? Just give him something entirely different that he's never faced before. Everybody says, "Oh, there's nothing I haven't faced." But there's always one thing you haven't faced, and the key is to have that one thing.
You come up against Pernell Whitaker, and again, before that first fight, it was a case of this is a man that people didn't really give you a chance going into the fight against. How do you set Callum's mentality like you did going into that fight, and the first fight you felt you won that as well against Whitaker?
Well, it's different because with Pernell, he had Georgie Benton, and I wasn't really worried about Pernell. I was worried about Georgie. And Georgie was the master. So I was worried about Pernell, but not worried. My main focus was I got to fight Pernell in Georgie. He had that going in his favor. So not saying that the outcome would have been different, but in my mind, I had to also mentally challenge and try to find out a way to figure out what Georgie Benton had planned.
You mentioned going to Georgia. With Callum, you're going to Canada. You're going to Beterbiev's adopted homeland. Again, does that pose another challenge in itself to get ready mentally for it?
No, I think that makes it much easier because we're not in front of the home crowd. So we know we're going in there as the underdogs. So there's no weight on our shoulders at all. Beterbiev, he's a champ. He's fighting in front of his home crowd. Sometimes you have a tendency to fight in front of your home crowd. You feel like you don't feel like you have a tendency of taking on unnecessary pressure because you feel like you got to prove something. And we just got to go there to do our job.
Do you guys? I don't know about Callum, but for yourself, do you like going into a fight with the underdog title and the underdog status?
I always think I really don't give it I don't pay it any mind. Some people do, but I really don't because I get people calling and say, man, you the underdog, you fight. Yeah, no problem. I've been the underdog before, so it is what it is. It's part of the game. It's how you handle it and deal with it.
Absolutely. In terms of Callum, how has he been during this camp? Again, like I say, second camp for this, but mentally, is he a happy fighter? They say a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. Does Callum seem a happy fighter to you?
Very happy because he understands why we are doing what we're doing now. Normally we do a few weeks in the States, and then we come here and finish camp here. But we're going to start here and finish here till it's time to go to Canada. And I explained to him why I wanted to do it that way, and he understood it. And he's just like, and he's better this camp at this early part of the stage than he was last camp in the later part of the stage. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's something I just was thinking. I had my thinking cap on. I said we got to take a different approach with this fight, and he seems so much better now.
Is it tough when you're partway through camp and you're going into the last couple of weeks of camp and then you go over to a different time zone to adjust and acclimatise and your body clock is all thrown off? How hard is that to adjust to?
I think that when you're going, like you say, you go to where it's hard, but when you got a task at hand like this, the last thing you really worry about is the time. You worry about the task you got to take on. And you have a tendency, you will fall asleep because you're thinking so much that you'll be mentally tired and you just crash out.
Move on to some big fights coming up away from yourself. First of all, end of this month, we've got Saudi Arabia. First, we've got Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder on the same card, but not against each other. Now, this is a fight that fans have wanted to see for 6-7 years against each other. Is it frustrating to see them on the same card but not against each other, or is it just part of building them up again?
I just think it's part of building them up, and I still don't think the fight's going to happen. You know what I mean? But I just think it's part of building them up because of all the confusion going on before when they were supposed to fight, and then you had Usyk, then you had Tyson Fury. So I think that it's a great idea, the way they're doing it, but I don't believe the fight's going to come off.
Do you think if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now?
Personally, yes. But I could be wrong. But personally, I think that if it was going to happen, it should have happened a long time ago.
Neither man are champions, so don't hold any belts currently. Does that make it easier or harder to make a fight?
Me, as a boxing fan, I think it makes it a good fight because you got two big guys, two big punches. You know what I mean? What can make up for an entertaining fight.
Now, AJ's facing Otto Wallin and Wilder is facing Joseph Parker. Do you see any potential upsets, or should they be a fairly straightforward night at the office for both men?
Well, I got to give Joshua props for taking that Wallin fight. That's a dangerous fight. The Wallin fight is very dangerous. And I got to give Joseph Parker props for fighting Deontay Wilder. That's a dangerous fight for Parker. Because, Deontay has, when I see him, I always call his right hand the equalizer. He's got that equalizer, man. And he's dangerous at any time during the fight. So I think that, like I said, I give Joshua props for fighting Wallin because he could have fought anybody. But he picked a pretty tough guy. And Parker stepping up fighting Wilder, I got to give him props for that.
And let's move on to the big fight where all the belts are. Undisputed heavyweight championship fight. Tyson Fury and Oleksandr Usyk. This will be on February the 17th in Saudi Arabia. Firstly, the size. A lot of people make out Tyson Fury is going to be far too big for Usyk, but we know Usyk is very skilled, very talented, and we know what he can do. Is he going to be too big for Usyk?
Fury is one of the big guys who really knows how to use his size and strength to his advantage. I give it to him. He knows how to use it to his advantage, and he uses it to the full extent of his advantage. I hope people are not judging him off of the last fight. I think that there's more at stake in this fight. That claim to being the best. So the key is him imposing his size and will, and how Usyk's going to handle it.
You mentioned Tyson Fury's last performance. Obviously, it was underwhelming against Francis Ngannou. The same could be said about Alexander Usyk when he fought Daniel Dubois. A lot of people felt that a blueprint was found. They felt that Usyk was susceptible to the body. He was hurt to the body as an amateur as well. Will both men go into this fight with a point to prove after their critics?
Well, in the second fight with Joshua. I don't know if it was the 8th or ninth round. Joshua started going to the body. And you see the tide starting to change. Just a little bit. But then the next round, Usyk came out and jumped right on Joshua, and Joshua got away from the body. I personally believe that if Joshua would have sustained that attack for another round or two, could have been a different outcome. So, they might have found something there with the body. I was at the Dubois fight, but did I watch it? No, because I was tired, and I left, and I went back to my hotel to eat, because I had an early flight the next day. So, now that you mention it, in the second Joshua fight, Joshua started doing a body tap. I don't know, it's 8th, 9th round, and you see Usyk start to slow down and get a little cautious. But he did the right thing the next round. He came right out and attacked Joshua to take his mind off the body attack. So you might have something there.
Is that the way forward for Tyson Fury in this fight? Should he look to attack the body of Usyk?
I personally think Tyson Fury is going to hit him any and everywhere. Because he's so big, man, you know what I mean? He has an awkward style, and I just believe he's just going to hit him any and everywhere.
One of Usyk's great skills is he can work out his opponent very quickly after 2-3 rounds. With Tyson Fury, if you was training Tyson Fury, would you tell him to have a plan A, plan B and plan C and to utilise all of them throughout the fight and keep changing his style and his tactic?
I personally believe Sugar Hill will have him do that. They're going to try one thing. If that don't work, then you try another thing. I believe Sugar Hill is going to prepare him for any and everything.
We know Sugar Hill likes the Kronk style. Go out and knock him out. He wants that. You stand up, you stand in the middle, you fight and you stop your opponent. We've seen that with Emmanuel and it's passed down to Sugar Hill. And we've seen that change in Tyson Fury's style since working with Sugar Hill. He's not as moving around as he used to be. He's not as fleet-footed. He is now looking for these stoppages. We see, the Wilder fight. He was dropped a few times himself, so there is a danger in doing that. Could he potentially find himself in a dangerous situation against Usyk if he does go forward with how he's fought last few fights?
I think that with Usyk, he's fighting more of a better boxer. Wilder, as we know, was there to try to land the equalizer. You know what I mean? He has a point to prove. We know what Usyk is going to try to do. So the key is to prepare for that. I mean, if you prepare for anything else, Usyk's not going to come in there early and stand inside with him. He's not going to do that. He's going to use everything that he has in his arsenal to keep Tyson Fury frustrated.
I think the last undisputed heavyweight fight was Lennox Lewis and Evander Holyfield about over 30 years ago. And it's very similar in the fact that Holyfield stepped up from cruiserweight, fighting Lennox Lewis. Lewis obviously was trained at the Kronk gym. So there's similarities and you can make comparisons between the two fights. Now Lewis, overwhelmed and he won that fight and he performed well. But in his few fights before that, he was underwhelming. And you can say the same for Tyson Fury. The fighters, like you may know from experience, do you get up for the bigger names in the better fights?
Certain guys, it's just no matter how good in shape you are, physically, sometimes mentally it's hard to get up for guys, man. It's just like, you say, okay, I'm going to get myself hyped up. And then, when your performance is so-so, people are like, they don't understand. If you've never been in that situation, you can't criticize a person. Because you don't know what it's like to have to, mentally get yourself up for someone that you're like, I know I can beat this guy. It's supposed to be an easy night. Whereas if, when he's fighting a Wilder, he knows I got to be on point. So he's zoomed in on what he has to do. So I think that with this fight here, I believe that, both of them mentally are going to be at that highest level.
In the build-up to this fight, for Tyson Fury, I know he's had his demons mentally. And after that Ngannou performance and the critics he will get, he may have got complacent. He may not have trained as well as he should have done for that fight because, again, he should be beating Francis Ngannou in his boxing debut. Will he be frustrated in himself with that performance?
I don't think he will be. I think that he'll just take that performance, put it behind him, and keep it moving.
Fantastic. And can I push you for a prediction? What do you think the outcome will Tyson be too big? Is Usyk going to be potentially too clever?
I can't pick a winner in that. That's a pick'em fight for me. But I think it's going to be a very good fight. Even though Usyk, we know is smart, he's got a great corner, and Tyson Fury has a great corner as well. But I think that's a fight I just wanted to sit back and watch.
Absolutely. Buddy McGirt, thank you very much for your time and thanks for joining us again.
All right, thank you.